Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. If you're new this week, because we made an announcement in our church service, thank you for joining us. And if you've been listening since day one, thank you for joining us once again. We really appreciate you all. Today we got a good one. We are talking with Pastor Scott, and we're going to be going over kind of like a day in the life, a week in the life, and see where that conversation takes us. But a week in the life of a senior pastor and what that looks like. Because I think one of the things that we've always talked about with the goal of this podcast was just to have an open door into our lives, the way that we talk, the way that we think, but then also like what does a typical work week look like for us? So, let's start from the beginning. For us, our work week starts on Sundays. Yep. Which is kind of, I was talking with somebody about this the other day, and they were like, "Wait, what? Like you have to work on Sunday?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's like my Monday morning. Like that's and what a great way to start off. I can't imagine having to start my work week off and just have to answer a whole bunch of emails and follow-ups and everything else. It's just great to just have church for my Monday, my quote unquote Monday morning. So like, how early does your day start on a Sunday typically?
So I get here when most of the staff other than you get here at 7:30. I find that gives me enough time to get my heart and my head right and everything that I need done, accomplished, with plenty of time to just be prepared for what I do. So probably between 40 and 45 times a year I preach on Sundays. Yeah. And so Sunday I'll get here at 7:30. Recently my wife has been on worship team pretty consistently, where this is kind of a new thing for us. She used to maybe do once or twice a month, and now she's on pretty consistent. So sometimes I'll have the kids with me, and we're just trying to figure the whole kid thing out while we're both serving. But I will normally go to my office after grabbing a cup of coffee, or my newfound obsession that Jared is going to have to stay away from, which are these Bang energy drinks. Don't send me any emails or messages about how bad they are for me or anything like that. I will not listen.
Because there's 0 calories, zero sugar.
There's like zero everything in it. But I'm sure someone's like, well, there's probably arsenic or something. I don't know.
Well, it's delicious.
It's delicious poison.
The most delicious
whatever it is. So
arsenic I've ever had.
So I grab my caffeinated beverage, because it is like, I don't do a good job of going to bed early on Saturdays because our work week, where it is a little different. Yeah. Saturday night, where it's kind of programmed in your head, it's like, oh, you don't want that to be an early night. Because it's like, that's the weekend. So I don't do a good job of going to bed always early on Saturday. So I'll grab my caffeinated beverage. I go into my office where I am looking over my sermon notes. I'm always finished with my sermon by the time I leave the office on Thursday. So
just finalized.
Yeah, I'm not.
Like, you're not like trying to cram a whole sermon. I don't know, but you're not like, okay, Thursday morning I'm writing a sermon. Like, this is something that you've put a lot of time and effort and thought into. Maybe just having the theme of that sermon like well in advance.
Yeah. So on Sundays, all I'm doing is I like probably 95% of the time I preach from little note cards that I put in my Bible, and they're just kind of like a backup if I forget what I'm trying to say or where I'm going, because I normally try to memorize my sermons to the best of my ability. And so my note cards just have like key words or whatever that help the flow of the sermon keep going in case I get stuck. And so I'm normally writing those. I color coordinate those. So the way, if I do have to glance at them while I'm preaching, they're easy to see. So I put my normal notes in black. I put anything that goes up on the screen, like a a statement or a quote or something is in blue, and then my scripture references are all in red. So when I look down, I can look quickly because I don't like breaking eye contact with the congregation. I think that hinders connection. And so I'm doing those note cards normally from about 7:30, 7:40 till probably 8:10. Then we do serve breakfast for our volunteers now, and so some weeks I'll go over and eat, some weeks I don't. I used to never eat before I preached, and then over the last little bit I've gotten more comfortable with it. So it really just depends on if I'm adhering to my good eating schedule or not. Or sometimes I go over and see the biscuits and gravy or the French toast sticks and have a moment of weakness, and so indulge. But then we have a pre-service meeting or a pre-service production meeting that happens here in your office that I highly value being in because it helps run through the order of the service. But we also spend time in worship before the service starts.
Yeah, no instruments, no microphones. It's just a time for us to kind of like not focus on anything except for Jesus. I mean, it's so easy to do that whenever you're behind, if you've got a guitar strapped to your neck or you've got a microphone, or for like our production crew, if you're sitting, in front of a computer or the audio console, it's so easy to kind of get distracted. And if we can alleviate those things as we come together on Sunday mornings, then our focus is just going to be more on Jesus and not anything else.
Yep. So I sit in that meeting, which lasts probably most weeks 20 minutes or better. We listen
about 30.
30 minutes. So we listen to like 3, sometimes 4 songs. We go over the order of service to make sure everyone knows what we're doing. Pastor Jared shares a scripture, and we go through all that. And that normally takes us up to about 10 minutes until our first service starts, and that's when we head out and start to see people, try to interact with people, welcome people, make sure everything's ready to go. Like I have to print off my notes, even though I don't preach from notes. I print off my notes every week. I have to give them to the production people. So the way like the person that's running the slides knows where I'm at, the person running sound knows where I'm at, so they know when to start the pad that triggers the worship team to come up. The live stream person gets a copy of them, so the way they can like put my notes in there. And so I'm doing all that, making sure everybody has that, making sure I've got my microphone ready and all that, while trying to interact with folks as they're coming in, or make sure there's no last minute changes for a service or anything like that. So we go through that, and then I preach at 9 a.m. service, and then we have it depends on how long I speak. Like this past week, we had about 35 minutes in between services, I think. But normally we'll have like 45 minutes to 50 minutes in between. So after the service, I try to make my way out and to interact with folks as much as I can. Yeah. And then I do spend probably a good 20 minutes trying to just get away from everybody to reset my heart and my mind before I have to preach again. And so I'll normally actually come in here with the worship team in Pastor Jared's office / the green room. Sometimes I'll go in my office and like check the live stream or look at comments on there to just see if there's anything that I can learn from first service to improve the sermon for the second service or anything like that. And then about 10 minutes before service starts, normally we're back out trying to meet and greet and see who all's there and get back into service mode after kind of taking a break there. So I'll preach second service, back out to the lobby afterwards to de-greet is what I think our first impressions team calls it. It's the opposite of greeting you. It's telling you goodbye as you're leaving and talking to new folks or doing whatever needs done.
The credits are rolling at that point.
The credits are rolling, and normally after preaching 2 sermons on Sunday, I'm pretty well spent.
Dude, I'm toast.
Yeah, Sundays are fun in the sense that, like, what a great way to start off the week. They're challenging in the fact that we just pour out so much on that first day of the week for us. And, and there's just so much that could go on in the course of a Sunday that could also really, just make the day. Sometimes we find out about new prayer requests, or we're,
just life
unfortunately,
instances that
life
are happening.
instances happen, or let's say somebody's a little fussy about something that has happened throughout the day, or maybe I say something stupid, which definitely has happened.
Jared's shoes are distracting.
Or maybe there have been some Sundays where things didn't go the way that we kind of hoped that they would go, and so you kind of walk away somewhat like, oh, you just think of all the things that you're going to have to handle on Monday as the result of Sunday, and so it just ends up being a long day, even though it's only about a 7:30 to 12:30 normally.
Yeah.
It's normally done, but it's a jam-packed 5 hours of pouring out and trying to interact with people, and as an introvert, that's really, really difficult for me. So I try to give my best for that 5 hours because I know I've got the rest of the day to just normally go and just be with my family or something like that. And so that's what Sunday looks like this past Sunday, though. And this is what will probably separate my job. As we're going to do these day in the life for everyone here on staff, and we've already done one for Pastor Jess in the kids ministry. But this is probably what will separate my job from just about everyone else here. Is me and Jared were talking about this just before we started. Is my weeks very rarely look really similar. I could have just different stuff thrown in every single week. It could look a little different.
And the difference is that, yes, you have people that oversee these different ministries, but you are like the top. You are like you are in charge. You make a lot of decisions for the church. Now, you do have an elder board, and you do seek wisdom from them. You ask us some things as well. But ultimately, that's where it comes from. So you have hired someone to take care of the youth, the children's ministry, the worship department. You've got somebody who's here during the week answering phones and is in charge of our first impressions. I mean, there's so many different moving parts as well. And then also, you're challenged with, how am I leading them?
Yeah.
How are they seeing things in the future? How are they growing themselves as individuals? How is their teams growing spiritually? How are they, growing in what they are learning and everything? So there's so much little things that it's not like you're micromanaging, but you're encouraging growth. You're encouraging not sitting still.
Yeah.
So your weeks look different because there could be something that's like, okay, I've got to address this, and that's with a specific type of ministry, or this and this, and there's so many moving parts that most people don't there's a lot of people that think, okay, Jared just does music.
Oh yeah, that's like the pastor thing. They're like, oh, all you do is just preach.
Yeah, you read the Bible.
Actually, this is so funny.
You're like, dude, if I could do that all day long, I would love to.
Landon was having a mini meltdown this past weekend because he just doesn't like doing chores or whatever. So we were just Saturday we were on the way somewhere, and it was so funny because there are people that actually think about pastors like this. He's like, you always want us to do chores, and you don't ever do any chores, and all this. Just he's just being a kid having a meltdown. I didn't care what he was saying. I thought it was actually funny, and I said, so wait a second, you don't think I do anything for our family? I'm like, what about the fact that I go to work every week and literally provide everything that you own, everything that you have, and all that? He goes, when you go to work, you just sit around and watch YouTube videos to write a sermon. So that's what he said. But it's funny.
You're copying somebody? You're like, oh, that's a good point. I'm going to write that down.
I don't know even what he is referring to be honest. But it was so funny because there are people that are like, oh, yeah, pastors, they just work on Sundays and they play golf the rest of the week. Or whatever. But so this past Sunday, we did 2 services, and I preached one of the longest sermons that I think I've ever preached, and probably one of the more difficult sermons I've ever preached. But because everything else in my life and the life of our elders and church has just been crazy, we had to fit in an elder meeting. So I meet with the elders of our church monthly. So after that morning of everything that I just explained this past Sunday, we met as an elder board till 3:30. Talking about all sorts of things about the church. We've got to look at the church financials. So I'm the one that has to manage the finances of the church. I have to, I have to manage 8 staff members. So our church has 9 staff members, including me.
Yeah.
And 6 of them directly report to me. But when it comes to the church, the lead pastor, especially at Southridge, the way our bylaws are, is essentially the CEO of the church. So even though I only have 6 direct reports, I'm responsible for all of them. I'm not the youth pastor, but I'm responsible for the youth ministry. I'm not the children's pastor, but I'm responsible for what happens in our children's ministry. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, even though we have staff members, I am ultimately the one that is responsible and accountable to our elders for the things that we do. So I had an elder meeting.
So real quick, give a little clarification on the 6 people, or the 2 that you don't meet with, just so people understand like the dichotomy of the whole situation.
Yeah, and so I would have 7 probably if it was a different situation. But because the Lord led us to hire my sister as our children's pastor, we wanted to say yes to that because we felt like the Lord was saying that's what should happen, but we wanted to be wise about it.
Yep.
And so we have her report to someone else on staff, and we have her assigned to an elder that kind of checks in on her spiritually and things like that.
Yeah.
So that way it's not her brother.
Her younger brother,
that she has to meet with every, 2 weeks and all that, which we'll get to the meeting schedule and all that. So she reports to Pastor Cheryl, our Next Steps in Discipleship pastor. That was just a natural fit because Cheryl was the children's pastor here for 8 years.
Yeah.
And so she's able to kind of help manage Jessica in that way.
Really good. If there's somebody that you would want to learn from, obviously, and that you would report to would be somebody who's done the job in that specific, here for the church. It would even be a blessing if it was somebody from another church that you hired for, the position that Cheryl's in, but like previously that they were a kids pastor, because they have that depth of knowledge
So normally the children's pastor at our church would report to my position, but given the fact that it's my sister, we've had her report to Cheryl. The other one that would normally report to me is our facilities guy, PD. And just when we gave Cheryl this new role, that was one of the things, because Cheryl, part of her new job responsibilities is the Next Steps discipleship pastor. Just the way the organization was broke down, she is ultimately responsible for the facility as well. And so because PD maintains the facility, he reports to her directly instead of me. Some of that was just I have 6 direct reports, and so it can be a lot, and I want to make sure everyone is well taken care of on staff.
Yeah.
And so that's why I only have 6 direct reports. So, Sunday ended up being a long day, but we don't normally do elder meetings on Sundays. That just happened because we just couldn't find another time to do it. And so I'm responsible for leading those meetings. I'm responsible for pouring into our elders. I am kind of the mediator between our staff and our elders, and so what's ever going on at the staff level, I'm communicating to the elders. Whatever's happening at the elder level, I'm communicating to the staff. I'm trying to create relationships between those 2 groups of people and rapport between those 2 groups of people. And so that's I serve as the head elder of the church as far as from a legal and business side of things. I am the legal representation of Southridge Church as the head elder as well. So I'm responsible for the finances. I'm responsible for the financial reporting type, making sure the elders are informed. Like we have someone that does all of that. Michelle does that. She sends all that to me. I have to look through it. And ultimately, I have to answer to the elders for how the staff is spending budget money and budget dollars. And then
where it's going.
Yep. And then there's certain special things that come up from time to time that I have to take the lead on as well. So, any major upgrades, any major budget issues at this point in our church, hopefully one day we'll grow to the point where there will be a whole nother level of leadership beneath me that will kind of separate me from some of this. But when you're at a smaller church like, Southridge isn't a small church, I know, compared to some, but we're not a mega church, so we don't have like a staff of 50 with an executive pastor and things like that. So I still have to handle a lot of that and be real hands-on. And so I know when we talk about your day in the life, you're going to talk about how little music actually is part of your job.
It's gonna blow people's mind.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about being a lead pastor is you think, the pastor, he preaches. preaching is a big part of my week because it does take a lot of time and energy to prepare a new sermon every 7 days. It's a really it's a grind, but the vast majority of what I do is leadership. The vast majority of what I do is pouring into other people, managing crises, managing finances, all sorts of things. Like, because we have a great staff, and so I'm responsible for making sure that the staff operates the way that they need to be operating. So that gets us to Monday, and that's what we use Mondays for, because I have to schedule my week in a way to where I have guarded times throughout my week to work on the sermon. I've told my friends in ministry for as long as I've been preaching, there are a lot of things that the lead pastor is responsible for in the church. There is nothing, in my opinion, that is more important than being ready to share God's word every 7 days.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't guard that time from people in the church, from your staff, from other responsibilities that you have, then you will lose that time, and you will find yourself doing sermon prep on Saturday night and Sunday morning, and you're going to have a little microwaved sermon that's not going to be nearly as impactful because it didn't have time to sit in the crock pot throughout the week. And so Monday, I try to get as much of my leadership stuff out of the way so I can protect the rest of my week to prepare for Sunday. And so we have a meeting schedule that is on a bi-weekly basis. So on 1 week, we have a service planning meeting every single Monday at 9:30, where me and all the pastors and our First Impressions hospitality lead, we sit down and we discuss the weekend, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. So we review that because we're always trying to get better. We believe excellence honors God, and it inspires people, and so we want our services to be excellent.
Yeah.
Not that God needs it to be excellent for him to move. God does what he wants, but we still have to do our part. So we do the service planning meeting where we really go through the service, both online and the in-person experience, where we talk through that. We're making changes. We're making suggestions. Then we are looking at upcoming services as well. So we're making sure that things are being planned out. If there's a video coming up, we're wanting to make sure that this is taken care of or that's taken care of. Like, we've been talking as a staff about Easter week since January.
Since January, yeah.
Since January, because we don't just get to Easter week and go, oh my goodness, it's Easter.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be a long process because we're wanting to make something special happen on that day.
Well, and the reason for that, and we do this typically with like a lot of with most of our services. I mean, we're always 4-5 weeks out that we're, maybe 5 weeks out, we're just kind of skimming the surface, trying to make sure some things are there that need to be there or whatever. But we know, as pastors, we know that Christmas, we know that Christmas Eve, we know that Mother's Day, we know that Easter are going to be kind of like our biggest services of the year, which is going to be the most attended. And we want to make sure that everything that we do, and this is, and you'll hear us say this often, we want to make sure every Sunday is just like Easter, is because it's so important that week in and week out that we are doing things with excellence, that nothing is just put in there by happenstance or just accidentally, or it just felt good on a whim. Like, we put thought into every little element. Like, when is this going to break? When is this song going to go? When are we going to do communion? When are we going to do baptisms? When does this thing supposed to start? When is this supposed to start? Like, who's going to move this into what spot? Like, everything in the service has gone over.
Yeah, it can be a pretty intense and real and raw meeting, because if something didn't go well on Sunday, we are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how we need to make it better, how we need to communicate and train our volunteers better. Whatever it is, we're going to talk about it in that meeting. And so we do that every single Monday. I'm part of that meeting. And then right after that, we now do, on 1 week, we do a long staff meeting, probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah.
I lead that meeting where we're talking about what's going good around the church, any issues around the church. Everybody gets to share something going on in their ministry that people need to know about. And then normally there's some sort of staff development time where I will do a teaching or I'll show a video or something, and that's my chance to pour into our staff to make sure that they're operating at a high level. So we'll do that, and then
But
I'll
then also
share.
that like, if there's some, like this past Sunday, like you wanted to make sure that like everybody was on the same page of how we need to function, not only just as individuals, but as a church as well, with gossiping. That was what you talked about in your sermon.
Yep.
And so sometimes it is like an application, like of something that you've discussed, but then also leadership as well. Like you've given us awesome tidbits of how to become and continue to grow in our leadership over our specific ministries as well.
Yeah, so that pouring into the staff is one of the biggest things that I have to do. So we
Sorry
do that.
if that was too much.
Oh no, it's all good. It's one of the biggest things that we have to do.
Yeah.
As lead pastors, is making sure that the people. And if you haven't listened to the potluck where me and you talked about leadership, I won't go back over all that stuff in case you did hear it. But I mean, one of the most important things we do is make sure that people can be successful. That's what being a leader is about, is making other people successful. It's not about them propping me up the way I can get a big following on the internet or anything like that. It's actually to make sure that the people that work at this church are serving the people of this church to the best of their ability to make them successful, not to make me successful.
Yeah.
And so we do that staff meeting. It's a really long one every 2 weeks, and then on the off week, it's a short check-in. We weren't doing this until just recently, but we were realizing some weeks we just can't go 2 weeks without meeting. There's just stuff that needs to be discussed, so we added just a short staff meeting. Now, on the week of the short staff meeting, I have one-on-ones with with 5 of my direct reports. Is it 5?
No.
4. I have 4.
I don't know where my paper's at.
I don't know. I meet with 4.
I know you meet
people.
with me at 1 o'clock.
I meet with you, Anna, Cheryl, and Belinda.
Yeah.
I will meet with Michelle, our finance person, periodically. And
on that week. You meet with 2 on Monday and then 2 on Tuesday.
Yeah, so I've got 4 regular one-on-ones that I'm overseeing. So, again, those one-on-one check-ins I'm checking in on most weeks that we do this, unless we're pressed for time. I'm checking in on how they're doing personally, how they're doing spiritually, ask them about their marriage, ask them about their kids, something like that. Ask them about if they got something going on in their life. Then we talk, how are things going at work? Is there anything I need to know about? And then for most of them, I'm tracking 3 priorities that they're trying to accomplish, and that just is a level of accountability for them to show up. It's not so much for me, it's more to serve them. I know every 2 weeks I have to give an update on this project, and it helps them keep moving forward. And then we track 2 key connections. So it's who are 2 people that I need to go have conversations with. And again, it's a level of accountability for them. It's not micromanaging. It's a level of accountability going, hey, these are 2 people that I need to meet with. I want you to ask me in 2 weeks if I met with them, so I know that I'm doing. And so normally after a day full of meetings, Monday afternoon becomes just really random.
Yeah.
Like super random. Like if there's just junk that needs taken care of, that's not necessarily like I'm not doing anything that requires a whole lot of my brain on Monday afternoon after those meetings. Because I'm an introvert, all that people time, all that meeting time, and I have very little patience for meetings. That dilly dally around. Like,
you're like, if we could do this in an email, we would, but we have to meet in person.
Yeah, like I want to get right to the point. Here's the deal. Let's move on, stick and move. And so as the leader, everyone is made differently, and so I can't operate like that. So sometimes I just have to we have some dreamers on our staff. We have creative folks.
Yeah.
If you want to lead them well, you actually have to, even though it frustrates me and it frustrates the people that are like me, you have to give them freedom to have that time. So by the end of Monday, I'm pretty well spent from all the leadership type meetings that we have to take care of. So I may be.
And you don't want to give me an energy drink before meetings.
No.
I'm just letting everybody out there.
Yeah, we found out yesterday that Jared is not a bang person.
No, I am. That's the thing. I am. But it's everybody else around me doesn't think that I am.
Yeah, they're not ready for Jared on bang yet. So
yeah, I told Scott, I was like, I think I see Jesus's eyes. Like we were talking about something. It was just I'd never had I don't know. For most of last year, I went caffeine free. Kind of towards the end of it, I kind of messed it up, and so I've been slowly getting back into caffeine. And then this thing lit me up.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah, so that's Monday. Like I might catch up on.
It was bad.
I may catch up on emails, or if there's any special projects. Like yesterday, I got to get, where I was working on something special that I'm not quite ready to share publicly yet, but like I had to work on something special where I had to run to Charleston, take care of some stuff in regards to that, or if I'm a part of like video shoots or anything like that I can knock out, I may do that on Mondays. So Monday ends up really random, even though most of the day is structured. After the structured meetings, it gets super random.
Yeah. So, like Tuesday, talk through the rest of your week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just like what we can expect just during those days, because you do take some time and it's blocked out to where you're doing some sermon prep. Is it pretty much the same time every day, like every moment of the that part of the week?
I have it on my schedule as Tuesday from 9 to 12 and Wednesday from 9 to 12 are guarded for sermon prep time. Now, I know that doesn't seem like a lot of time, because like I've heard preachers that like take 20, 25 hours to write a sermon. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
If I get 3 really good hours, I can normally pump out what I need to do for Sunday. I'm just wired a little differently, and I have a different goal when I'm preaching. I am not going for information, the transfer of information.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel the need to go and read 1,000 commentaries to impress you by the crap that you don't care about the Hebrew language and the Greek. Like, when it fits my overall purpose of the sermon, then yes, I do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't need 25 hours. I don't even know what I would do for 25 hours of sermon prep. I need probably 3.
Your brain would feel like a Monday afternoon.
Yeah,
like
so
all the time.
On Tuesday, I am doing whatever reading I need to do.
Yeah.
Whatever reading from 9 to 12 that I need to do for the sermon. Like, I love reading N.T. Wright's The Bible for Everyone series. I love the New American Commentary. Those are my 2 go-tos. Yeah. If I read those and I'm still a little uncertain of my direction for the week, and as I'm praying through it, I'll go to like the Pillar Commentary or the Faith Life Study Bible or something like that. Or I may go out, as my son so eloquently said, to YouTube and like see if anybody has done any like informative, not necessarily sermons, but like has anyone talked about this? Like, like I love listening to debates between like Christians and atheists or things like that. So I might go watch that, or I may see is there somebody that did any sort of video on this topic that I might be able to gain. And so I'm doing anything like that on Tuesday. I'm normally not writing the sermon on Tuesday. It's all information gathering.
Yeah.
And so, probably twice a week I'll have a lunch meeting. I normally stick that on Tuesdays, the way it's right after my sermon prep. I get out of the office, get out of the reading of all of that. If I have to go meet with someone, that could be a congregant that I'm doing discipleship with. That could be one of our elders. That could be just any number of things. So, doing pastoral care, trying to catch up with people, whatever. And then Tuesday afternoon is open for whatever. Again, I don't have this set thing like the rest of the staff where they're like, every Sunday I've got to take care of this.
Yeah.
Mine is like, okay, there's a fire in this area of ministry. I'm going to have to take care of this. There's a fire in this area of ministry. Now I get to step into that for this afternoon or whatever it is. And so I end up trying to just figure out where things like, so today is,
and it's not always it's not like always putting out fires. You also take time to celebrate people, like whenever like something like amazing has happened, or I know you met with a young individual a while back. You and I went to lunch with them, and it was just like, hey dude, like I've been hearing like what God's been doing in your life, and I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Like, and they were just getting off of they struggled with addiction for so long. And he was just like, yeah, man, I just finally started reading my Bible and gave my life to Jesus, and like God freed me from addiction. So it's not always it's not always like putting out fires. It's like celebrating the things that God is doing
Yeah.
in people's lives as well. So
Yeah. So like I don't have like the event planning side to my job so much like everyone else. So I have to spend a lot of time relationally with people.
yeah.
So when I'm not doing sermon stuff, I'm trying to connect relationally with people, or you know, any sort of conflict management. Or like today is Tuesday, so like today I did sermon prep from 9 to 12. I ate lunch right quick, and then I filmed a 5-part series for our news. Like we're going to try to ramp up our social media stuff. I did a 5-part reels, which I don't even fully understand what it is. It's like 5 little short videos that I did about about a Bible story and introducing. So I did video shoot there. Came in here. I did the Extra Point podcast with you and Cheryl for like 45 minutes.
Yep.
And now we're shooting this, and this will take me all the way to the end of my day.
Yep.
Not every Tuesday's like that because I'm not always on the Pastor's Potluck, but I am on the Extra Point every week, and so that's always Tuesday afternoon. And again, it can get super random. Like the stuff, like I have to also type up, you know, a couple weeks ago I spent an afternoon writing up organizational alignment guidelines, talking to people about how we're going to function as a church, because I'm responsible for the future vision of our church. You know, so all of this stuff about for the future and getting out of debt that we're talking about, anything dealing with that, I'm having to do that. I'm also having to do things to just better myself so I can lead the staff. And so I'm doing a lot of reading books, watching videos, taking courses, trainings, anything like that. Wednesday is quite similar. I lead a men's Bible study Wednesday morning at 6:30.
Yep.
Then I got sermon prep in the morning. That's the day I'm trying to write the sermon. It doesn't always happen like that because, again, randomness. I could look at my calendar and be like, for some reason I have 3 appointments this morning with 3 different people. And so I'm going to lose my sermon prep for that day, and I know it's just going to push to Thursday. And so Wednesday gets super random, but I actually, when my book club is meeting on Wednesdays, I leave about 1:30.
Yeah.
Because we start at 6:30 with that men's Bible study. So I go home for a couple of hours, kind of decompress, and then I come back and I lead that Bible study, or my book club, which I'm getting ready for on Wednesdays as well, so normally reading.
I don't go home on Wednesdays.
I do. Mainly because my family's at home, and I hate riding separately. I don't want to drive home without my family.
Gotcha.
So I want to try to, like, again, like being in ministry, it's not a job that I tell, like, I sit down with people probably a handful of times a year that are like, I think I'm called into ministry. And, you know, you can tell me I'm wrong for this. I normally try to discourage people from that. And the reason why is unless you're really, really, really called to it, you should not do it. Mm-hmm. Because it's a grind on your family. It's a grind on your health. It's a grind on you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's also one of the biggest blessings in the world.
Yeah.
Love it. But if you're not called to it, you will not do well in it. And
I've noticed that it takes like a special type of personality, whether you're introvert or extrovert. There's some kind of like outlier that people have to be in ministry. And I don't even know what it is. And I've been in ministry for 7 years, you know, but it's one of those things to where you've got to be like super tenacious. You've got to have some resolve about you. Because there's going to be times in ministry to where it's going to feel like I cannot do this.
Yeah, that's why 10% of people that start out in ministry do not finish their lives in ministry.
Yeah.
It's a grind. The reason why that percentage is what it is mostly because there's a lot of people that get into ministry that weren't actually called to ministry. Now, some people get into ministry and they really were just called for a season. That's totally God's prerogative. He can do what he wants. But so on Wednesday, the reason I go home is because my job is going to take me away from my family a lot.
Yeah.
Like I probably am going to have a meeting in the evening, some weeks upwards of 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially now that Megan and I are now doing this marriage counseling thing. We've got like 7 couples we're trying to work through. Trying to get them all scheduled. And that's like 3 to 5 sessions a piece. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially 35 meetings over like the next. So my job's going to take me away from my family enough, so I go home on Wednesdays so we can see each other for a little bit at the house. I'll try to go, maybe if I can get out early enough, I'll go pick them up from the school bus. And then we'll be at the house for a couple hours because I know the church duty calls. We got to go to church on Wednesday night. Not every family has to go to church on Wednesday.
But you're trying to make the most of every single moment that you can.
Yeah, because there's a sense in which I could just go like, man, if I stayed at church all afternoon, like, I mean, I could get all kinds of stuff done. But going home for an hour and getting an hour of quality time makes the sting of saying, hey, like last Wednesday, hey, I have to miss your baseball practice tonight because I've got to go to church. It makes it sting less because I was at home with you for an hour. But most Wednesdays when there's not baseball practice or something, we get to do that. We get to eat dinner. We ride to church together. We ride home together instead of having two separate cars.
Yeah.
So even though we're having to do ministry stuff, our family gets to be together.
Yeah.
So that's one of those strategic things Megan and I try to do. We don't live super far from the church, and so we're able to fly back and forth within about 20 minutes or so. And so that's what Wednesday looks like whenever the Bible study's not in session. Then I do get Wednesday night off, unless what I was doing when my book club wasn't in session, I was actually having elder meetings on Wednesday nights at certain points, or I will put counseling appointments on Wednesday nights or whatever, just because I'm used to working Wednesday nights because we've had services here forever.
Yeah.
And then Thursday is literally whatever I did not do on the rest of the week.
Yeah, it's a loose ends day.
Yeah.
For me.
I am not, I'll just say this, and there's probably pastors that are way better than me. I am not pushing the ball forward organizationally on Thursday. I am getting stuff done so I can go home.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to vision cast on Thursday afternoon. I'm not at my best. That's not, the Lord ain't like wanting me to do vision casting on Thursday afternoon. So when I get in here on Thursday, I am a lot of weeks writing my sermon. I'm getting the sermon slides to Megan to put the sermon slides in for the live stream and for the people in service. I am writing the small group questions. I am putting my notes on src.life so that way you have something to follow along with on Sundays. Right now I'm on a stretch of about 6 weeks where I'm going to the Senior Living Center just down the road, and I'm running their Bible study on Thursday afternoons. And so I'm doing that, so I got to prep for that. I got to get down there. I run that for an hour. And so I'm just trying to get everything sermon-wise finished. And if I get it done early, then I will try to knock something easy off of my list.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I need to call so-and-so, or like my pastoral care strategy is super random, as most of you that have been at this church can attest to. Like, you will just get random texts from me or emails or cards from me because I just do it as I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of pastors that are way more organized than me. They probably have systematized this thing down. Mine is literally, if I'm praying and your name comes up, I'll probably shoot you a message.
Yeah.
But I'm not real good about stuff like that. So, like, I might send out messages on Thursday.
I get so discouraged whenever that happens because, like, I'll be praying and God will put somebody on my heart and I'll send them a text and they're like, who's this?
Yeah. The crazy thing to me is,
like, it's me, dude. Like, what are you doing?
I would classify my pastoral care strategy as accidental at best.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the amount of times I've sent that message to someone and they go, you have no idea what good timing this is because this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this. And I'm like, all right, Lord. Like, I was listening to a sermon last night that I, like, really I think is something God's been working on me a lot about. I was listening to Stephen Furtick preach. The sermon's called Moving What You're Made For, which just, maybe you don't like Furtick. That's okay. I don't care. It spoke to me. Because he was talking about on day 5 of creation where he said God had already made the sky. He had already made the water. And then he made the fish and the birds in the environment that they were made for. And he said that fish would look ridiculous trying to fly. Yeah. And the bird would drown if it tried to swim.
Yeah.
And he said, and then God makes mankind on day 6. He said we should learn from the bird and the fish that we need to move in the thing that God's made us to do. And so this whole comparison trap that we live in where we're like, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. But then we try to be good at it because we think we got to attain to some certain thing. It's like, no, there's just certain things we suck at.
Yep.
it doesn't excuse us from doing it. It just means like there's just certain things that I suck at. I don't think that I'm great pastoral care. I feel really comfortable preaching though, and that would like burn me up and make me feel like inadequate and insecure for so long. And then like I was listening to that last night, and the Lord's going, "Look, I just made you the way that I made you." Mm-hmm. And I just need you to be okay in your own skin that like I made you this way. Like I made you a pretty good preacher, pretty good leader, and you know maybe you're not great at everything, but that's why we put people around you. That's one of the reasons why I moved Pastor Cheryl from kids ministry to Next Steps in Discipleship. One of her main roles around here is pastoral care because she's actually really good at it. She's a very thoughtful, kind person. She's very organized, so she can keep up with people. She's really good at it. And so the Lord was going, don't beat yourself up because you're bad. Like, I don't know if I'm bad at it, but like, because it's not one of your strengths. Yeah. I put people around you in your areas of weakness on purpose. And so like, so there's throughout my week.
And I think there's a fine line there, if you don't mind me interjecting. Yeah. I think that there's a fine line there that, that there are things in our leadership abilities that we do have to get better at.
Yep.
But there is certain things or certain qualities about us that as much time as we try to invest into it, it's just not going to get any better. I mean, I'm not trying to be negative or make a joke out of it, but it is funny, but that's just the way that God created us. And just like you said, we've got to be comfortable in that way that God created us, because whenever we begin to function in that lane and not being in somebody else's lane, and we're in our lane that God has for us, then there's so much more freedom in that. And it's just getting away from the comparison game.
Yep. Like the things that I don't excel in always frustrate me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't get better. I'm not saying I shouldn't get better at pastoral care. I think over the last 10 years I've gotten much better at pastoral care. I still don't see it as one of my strengths.
Correct.
But like there are things in our job that we just have to do them whether we're good at them or not. It's kind of like evangelism for Christians. It doesn't matter if it's your spiritual gift. It's still your responsibility.
Yeah.
That's kind of how pastoral care goes for me. It doesn't matter if it's not your gift. It's still your responsibility, so you better figure it out.
Yeah.
Type deal. So throughout my week, that's kind of the rough outline of my week, and it doesn't look nearly as structured probably as other people's. And that's because throughout my week, I'm going to meet with people, I don't know how many times. Like some weeks it's a lot, some weeks it's practically nothing. And then I've got to run that elder meeting monthly.
Now, how far in advance are you starting to look at like sermon series and because I think that this topic will be a little bit intriguing because it's not, I mean, we take time and we put thought into everything. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, if we're planning out services 5-6 weeks out at a time, and we've been talking about Easter since January, it's like, well, do you already know what you're talking about for Easter? And do you how far out do we know like what's happening?
Yep. So every fall I get the teaching calendar for the next year finished.
Yeah.
At least the titles of the sermons or the titles of the series are done by fall.
Yeah.
And then, so I used to like go in and plan out every single week, but that's when I was only the teaching pastor.
Yeah.
And really during that season, that's all I got. That's all I had to do. I sat in my office and I created content. That's not the case anymore. Now I've got all this other leadership type stuff, managing finances and pastoral care and, meeting with, elders and folks around the church and staff members and everything. And so now I don't get to do that. So I don't go in and plan out every single week meticulously the way that I used to. So now it's just like we know the series title, and so we kind of know where we're heading. We do a quarterly off-site meeting with the pastors where we talk about what's coming up and we creatively plan what's going on with all of those. And so I have the rest of this year. I've had the rest of this year since probably October already figured out what we were doing.
Yeah.
And now it's just when it comes to the week of it, I'm just, asking the Lord, okay, Lord, you told me the series. Now, tell me the specific thing that you want me to do this week. Now, sometimes I have like an outline already put together. Like when it came to the series earlier this year, For the Future.
Yeah.
I knew that we were going to cover week 1, we were going to cover the year of sacrifice. Week 2, 3, 4, and 5 was going to be our core values. I already knew that.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Selfish and Stupid that just finished up this past week, I knew those topics except for the one that God switched last week. We've got another series coming up after Easter called Not So Blind Faith. It's an apologetics series, and so I will know what I'm doing on those weeks.
Yeah.
But we do these all off-site meetings so that way if we want to do something special for any of these things, we're talking about, hey, in this series we're going to be talking about this, so it helps Jared know how to design the videos and the graphics and all of this for the series. Or like for Adventures of Selfish and Stupid, if we had waited until the week of that series and I walked in and said, all right guys, here's going to be our next series, it's going to be the Adventures of Selfish and Stupid, we couldn't have done the videos that we did.
Yeah,
we
the bumper
couldn't have
videos.
had the bumper videos with Cheryl and Anthony playing the roles of Selfish and Stupid. We couldn't have done that. There's a lot of churches that operate like that. The problem is you don't get to pair up the creativity of your people with the ideas that God's given you when you work last minute. So we work
or
really,
just the
really
availability of people that need to be in the video.
Yeah.
Like, like what if Anthony had major something go wrong at work and he wasn't able to shoot? Then what do we do? Like, we don't have bumper videos?
Yeah. So if you don't, when you work further in advance, you give room for the Lord to really move.
Yeah.
That's what, like, our Easter service this year is going to involve
people.
Probably at least 20 extra people.
Yeah.
And then a full band, full production crew, and probably a couple extra production positions that we don't normally have.
Yeah.
So it's going to...
No animals, though, right?
No animals.
Yeah.
I bet it's going to require like 40 people. Well, you can't do that the week of Easter.
Yeah.
You have to be planned out with all of this. Same thing with Christmas Eve. These services that people really find to be special, they did not happen the week of.
Yeah.
They've been happening for 6 months. And so that's a lot also of what I'm doing is helping just listen to the Lord. Hey, what do you want for Easter this year? What do you want? And then I'm giving it to the team. That way they can take it and run with it and make it what it's going to be. And so, yeah, I mean, it's...
But it's funny, like it's happened several times, but like things like indirectly, the way that God speaks to us, because like one time you'll be like, hey dude, like, I don't know if you've heard this song, but here, and then like literally like a month later, I feel that God is saying, hey, do this song.
Yeah.
Or I'll do vice versa. And I'm like, hey, here's this song. It's just what I'm listening to. I'm like my personal time. Like, just let me know what you think of it or whatever. And so we'll start talking about it. And that's really what happened with Easter this year.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey.
It was a song that was on that pre-service meeting on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
It was on the playlist.
Yeah. And it was just, I'm a big Chris McClarney fan. He sang a lot of songs with Jesus Culture. And then he moved to a different church in Tennessee. And so I've always just followed his career, and I just put it in the pre-service stuff. And then like a couple weeks later, you're like, hey man, you played a song a couple weeks ago in the beginning of that service. Do you know what it is? I'm like, I really don't. But so we went down the whole list. Like there's probably 80 songs in this playlist. Yeah. And you're like, no, this one. Like God told me like this is what we're going to be doing for Easter. And I was like, all right.
Yep.
So
yeah, once we found that song, I was like, all right, there it is. And then from there, because this was happening in January.
Yeah.
Now we've got 4 months to make it what it's going to be to impact people's lives.
Yeah.
Now, could God just show up on the week of Easter without any? Yeah, of course he could.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and we see it time and time again. It's God's power and his sovereignty and human responsibility. We have to do our part as well. Like, I don't like the notion of lazy Christians or lazy people in ministry, and they just go, oh, God will take care of it. God moves through people, man. And like he moves through people. And so can't wait till the last minute. So, a lot of what I do also is that future vision casting. You know, we're in the middle of this For the Future campaign. And so I'm trying to figure out, what the next step is. And, the next step is, going to look like talking about capital campaigns. And, if you weren't at the night of worship to get to hear about how God's been giving people visions, like in dreams, about a new building up here to add on. And so, that'll be the ship that I'm driving if we get to that point where we're raising money to build a building, and that's all going, that can't go to anyone else. That's going to be me. So yeah, I have it feels super random because like I am a nut about my to-do list.
Yeah,
an absolute nut about it.
Well, you have to be, because like I like having this conversation, and I think anybody that works anywhere in ministry or just wherever in your regular job, like you have to understand like what's coming down the pipeline, and you have to know how to get there. And especially with all the different projects and things that we have going on, like you have to be so detail oriented to where like, because it's just like if you're putting together like a toy that you got your kid for Christmas, if you put it all together and you've got one or two screws that are supposed to go in this thing, then the whole thing is not going to be able to function the way that it is. And so you have to be so detail oriented
so
with
I'm
all
crazy
these different
about
things.
my to-do list. On Mondays and Thursdays, they auto-populate a bunch of tasks because that's when I have a lot to do. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, there's only about 2 things that pop up on my to-do list because those 2 days get almost something unique every week. Yeah. Like I'm not doing the same thing every Tuesday and Wednesday outside of sermon. Like the thing that pops up on Tuesday that's there every week is sermon prep. Yeah. The thing that pops up every Wednesday morning is write your Sunday sermon based on the sermon prep. Yeah. Other than that, all of those days get filled with complete randomness.
Do you? Sorry, this is like total off the. I'm just curious. Do you? Does it auto populate in Asana?
No.
Okay, you use
I use Todoist.
Okay.
I use Todoist. So if I have something, so we use the project manager Asana here. If I have an assignment in Asana, I take it out of Asana and put it in Todoist. So the way because I just like it better than Asana.
Gotcha.
I'm down with Asana because I like what it does for us, but me personally, I work off of Todoist, and so like as tasks come up for me, because there's a personal side of Asana you can add stuff to, I add mine to my Todoist. Gotcha. But the only 2 things on Tuesday and Wednesday that auto-populate are sermon stuff. Everything else, because I'm gonna spend both of those mornings doing sermon stuff, and then after lunch, it's like, who knows? Like, because I would also play the role of like relationship building with other churches and sort of, if I had to go and do or represent the church in some matter, I don't know, like whatever, or I'm doing this podcast, on Tuesday afternoon, or it really is. I like the job because it's never the same, even though some of the week feels the same. Yeah. There's always something that comes up that is like, wow, this just broke the mold, or, we're on call essentially 24/7. Somebody could call you and say, hey, I just need my pastor right now. And it's like, all right, I'll see you in 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. Or, hey, are you up at the church? I was hoping to be able to stop by, because you never know who's going to stop by on a given day and be like, well, there goes 2 hours of my day, that I didn't anticipate spending in a meeting for that or anything like that. The other big thing that I do is I have to spend a lot of time in personal development. Yeah. As the leader of the church, as a speaker, as a leader, if I'm not spending a lot of time putting stuff in, I won't have anything to pour out. Yeah. So I won't be able to lead those staff meetings on Monday morning and help develop you all if I'm not spending my time doing that. And so as a staff, we read a book pretty much probably quarterly. Yeah. We read a book, and then I'm reading probably 3, 4, 5 books simultaneously to that, as well as listening to 3, 4, 5 podcasts weekly. And I'm listening to people preach, attending conferences online. Like I just signed up for one yesterday about preaching that I'll attend in like 2 weeks. So I am doing anything and everything I possibly can also to pour into myself in the cracks of my day, so that way I have something to pour out. to the staff and it's. I see all of life as sermon prep, which we're going to do a future podcast all about preaching. All of life is sermon prep.
Yeah.
And only good preachers understand that. That means so. What is today? Tuesday.
So
8th? Sunday. I was telling y'all I had that really long day.
Yeah.
I went to church for 2 services and preached. Had an elder meeting that went till 3:30, and then I went to the movies because I was just like. The best thing in the world for me, if I've had to be around a bunch of people all day, put me in a dark theater where no one is encouraged to talk to me.
With a big tub of popcorn.
Yeah, with some popcorn and a Pepsi Max, and I'm good. So I went and watched the new Batman.
Yeah.
But even that, as I'm watching that, I can't turn my brain off from going, what I'm sitting here watching is speaking to humanity's issues. What I'm sitting here watching, everything in life is sermon prep. Those rides with my kids is sermon prep.
Yeah.
Those because I can't shut it off. Either I'm working on a sermon where I'm constantly thinking through in my brain of how I'm going to say this or how I'm going to use that story or whatever it is, or I'm watching a television show or reading a book or listening to a podcast like in transit somewhere or sitting at home. And I'm thinking, gosh, that would be good. And so, I'll have notes in my phone of quotes from things that I've been watching, and I'll go. So that story I shared Sunday about when I fell at Landon's baseball practice and skinned my knees up.
Yeah.
I've had that story for over a year.
Yeah, that's funny.
I've been asking God when he would let me share it because I thought, first off, it's a funny story about me being overweight and falling. Everyone finds that story to be funny. But second off, the truth behind the story of we don't know what people are going through. We don't know how bad they're hurting under what we can't see is so powerful. But I've had that for over a year.
Yeah.
And so I have stuff in my phone. You're a video game guy. I'm a video game guy.
Yeah.
I was watching the opening credits. I was playing Final Fantasy VII, which I mentioned it in a sermon, and then I went away from it because I was like, I don't think people care.
No,
but the opening scene of it, said something, and I just pulled my phone out and I put it in there because I'm like, gosh, that's such a good quote.
Yeah.
So I look at all of life as sermon prep, and I don't whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I know pastors complain about this. Everywhere we go, we're doing ministry.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go, we're doing ministry. And so it's a 24/7 job, which is why it's not just for everyone. And that's any position at the church. That's not just my position.
Yeah.
That's what, I mean, everyone uniquely has their own struggles, and they're in ministry.
Yeah.
And their own busy seasons, right? I sometimes don't have busy seasons, and the rest of the staff might be just going wild.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when everyone else can kind of take their foot off the gas, that's a lot of times when I'm probably most overloaded with stuff. And it's just weekly. And so everyone in ministry has their own, there's not, I will not sit here and say that my job is more difficult than any other job in ministry because they're all different.
Yeah.
I did youth ministry. There were days in youth ministry that I loved. There were days in youth ministry that I hated.
Yeah.
Same thing with associate ministry. Same thing with being the teaching pastor. Same thing with being the lead pastor. There's just certain days that it's awesome, and then there's certain days that it really sucks.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy.
Yeah. It's. I mean, we've mentioned this several times before. It's so rewarding, but there's also difficult moments. In between those times, for me, one of the most difficult things, one of the churches that I served for, we had 14 funerals every single week.
Oh yeah.
That's difficult. Typical, a normal person would probably go to maybe, if you're lucky, one marriage a year and maybe one funeral. And we did it 14 times, every single week in a row. And it was just exhausting.
Yep.
But that's what God called me to do, is to be there for people in their absolute worst moments in life and point people to Jesus in those moments.
Yep. And sometimes it does. It looks like weddings. It looks like funerals. It looks like viewings. It looks like dinner out with people that are in need. It looks like counseling. Ministry is one of those deals.
Weddings are a close second, though.
Oh man, I don't like doing weddings except for people that I really, really know.
I don't even like showing up. I don't even want to be invited.
Right?
I don't.
Now I'm really liking the marriage counseling and stuff that we're doing and the premarital counseling.
That's crucial.
But
like
the ceremonies and things are some of those things that I don't know. Now I it's weird. I don't mind doing funerals. I like helping people in that moment.
Yeah.
I've been told that I'm pretty good at it, and so I like going in, and because most people just don't know what to do when they've lost someone close to them.
Yeah.
And being able to come in and be like a calm, non-anxious presence and go and walk someone through the process of getting all the stuff in order that needs to be in order.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy that. I do not enjoy that for weddings though whatsoever.
Oh no.
I just anything that makes me wear a suit, I'm not a big fan of. Because if you let me do your wedding in a pair of jeans and my Hey Dudes, then
I think it's just the nature of, or like just the topics that you have to discuss between a husband and a wife, and you're sitting there in this meeting, and they're like, "So should we do bubbles at the end or bird seed?" And you're like, "I don't care." Like I don't care if it's bird. Do the bird seed. The birds like the bird seed, so like let's just feed the birds.
Yeah, well, I mean, weddings just end up being an all weekend affair, is what I think drives me crazy about it.
Oh yeah, because you have rehearsal dinner and
rehearsal Friday night. You got to do the dinner, and then there's a large chunk of your Saturday that's like you showing up.
Yeah.
Then you got to do that, and then it's rude to not stay for the reception. So when you end up with a wedding, it just ends up being a lot. But again, this is that thing about ministry. There are weeks where I feel like I may see my kids, very little. And then there's also weeks, this is just like the cool thing about ministry, that I could be like, you know what, I'm peacing out today. I'm just going to go see my kids.
Yeah.
And it's going to be what it is. Like, everything always comes out in the wash in ministry. Like, if you ever have a really busy week where, like, I've had them where I've had literally a meeting every single night of the week.
Yeah.
Like, but then the next week, I have the prerogative to go, you know what, I'm just going to stay home on Tuesday and catch up. Like, it all comes out in the wash. Like, this weekend.
It's about being intentional with those moments too, because so many times we could take, just because it is so, there's so much that goes on and that we take in, and also giving out to like our volunteers in busy weeks or whatever. But like, I've got to be super intentional, because it's so easy for me to say, I don't want to do anything. Yep. I just want to sit down. I want to watch something. I want to read something. But I need to be super intentional about spending that time with my wife and my kids.
Yep.
So I'm not in a position a year, 2, 3, 5 years from now to where my kids hate the church. Yep. My wife hates the fact that I work for a church. I don't ever want that,
Ministry families have to understand the importance of quality time and not necessarily the quantity of time.
Yeah.
Because your kids will respond more to the quality of the time anyways. Like, if you can spend a really good hour with them, it does more than you could sit at home on your phone for 4 hours and it does nothing.
Yeah.
So it's the quality of the time. And it's one of those things. Everything comes out in the wash. And I've had to, we've been doing this for a decade now as a family, and I just have to tell Megan, she's getting to know it a lot more now that she works here.
Yeah.
It's like some days that she'll leave and she'll be like, or some weeks we'll leave and she's just like, man, it's just, I feel like we've been going nonstop. And I'm like, just know it's a season. Because in like 3 weeks from now, there will probably be a week where we can find enough of a break to go, hey, we're going to take Thursday off.
Yeah.
Like I'm taking tomorrow off finally. I've been chasing this day off that I gave the whole staff like 3 weeks ago.
I've been taking like half days, and I realized I should have taken a full day.
Yeah, you got to take a full day. Yeah. I've been chasing it for like 3 weeks because I keep telling y'all, I'm like, I think I'm going to take it this week. And then it was like things would just get crazy. I couldn't take it. Last week I said, I think I'm going to take it this week. Things would get crazy. Well, this week I'm taking it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I am taking it tomorrow. Because I'm even thinking, well, I may end up having to work Friday for it, but I'm taking it tomorrow because it's spring break. I'm going to spend the day with my kids. I'm going to wake up early. Landon's got a buddy coming over tonight. We're going to play video games. Like, I'm just going to pour in for the next 24 hours, everything into my family. So the way Friday comes, and I have to work this Friday because we got to go to a funeral.
Yeah.
To support someone in our church. It doesn't end up being a big deal because if you're not creative in ministry, this is how you destroy your family.
Yeah.
But if you will look at it and go, hey, I can get 3 hours on Tuesday with my family, well, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You also have to do stuff for yourself as well. It can't always be about ministry or your family if you don't take care of yourself. That was me preaching 2 services, 3-hour-long elder meeting. I told Megan, I love you. I will see you in 3 hours. I'm going to see Batman. And I left. I left. This is so funny. Left the movie theater, Batman, which is an incredibly dark movie, but it's awesome. I left it, and I was actually praising God on the way out because I said, I walked into this theater completely just wrecked. Like, I
just
am
drained.
dead. Like, I'm so tired. I left fully energized, ready to be a good husband and father because I took 3 hours for myself.
I thought you were going to say that you were going to go fight some criminals.
Well, that too. But, like, I had this conversation with the Lord. I said, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
That you gave me enough foresight to go sit in that theater, because by the time 3 hours of by myself time had come and gone, I'm watching a good movie, I've got some popcorn, I've got my Pepsi Max, I walk out going, I don't feel like I just sat through a 3-hour-long elder meeting, and I've done
had two services.
2 services. I felt fully energized.
Yeah.
So you can't just do stuff for your family. This is the mistake a lot of people in ministry make, and it's probably a lot of business people too.
Yeah.
You take time for your family because you're like, I don't want to destroy my family. You take time for your business or your church. If you don't take time for you, you will not make it.
Yeah.
You've got to find time for you. You got to find that outlet. Like, I stay up later a lot of nights playing video games, and I know it's a childish thing to do. It's what I do because I walk away from it filled up for some reason.
I know, I get excited. And people don't realize, like everybody's, like, some people like to go out in the woods and shoot things, and some people like to play video games, and some people like to go to their garage and work on their car. And it's just like, what are you doing that, like, whatever. Just, it's what I enjoy. I enjoy it too. I like to build stuff. I like to go out to the woods and shoot things. I like to go swim in random bodies of water, like whatever. I like to be adventurous.
I'm out on that. Well,
but most of the time I don't have the time to go play 4 hours of golf.
Nope.
I don't have the time to go sit in a tree stand to hopefully wait for a deer to come by. Yep. I don't have the time to do that. So, but it's finding the things that you enjoy that give you those moments.
Yep.
Sitting in a movie theater, giving you those moments to where you could just. It's important to take the time also for yourself, not even just for your family, which is uber important, which is in some cases like way more important than myself. But I also need a moment, just a moment for myself as well.
I've always been a movie person, so I actually got that unlimited subscription to go see movies for a month. It's only $18.
What?
Yeah, $18. It's an unlimited subscription because it was about 2 months ago.
Is this in Nitro though?
Yeah. Yep. I came home from something it was Landon's basketball game. I took my nephew. By the time that we drove to this basketball game, we sat for like an hour and a half waiting on his game, and then I drove them back because the game was like an hour away.
Yeah.
I told Megan, I said, I'm about to kill these kids. Like, it was to the point where like they had pushed me to the edge. Like, she said, why don't you just go do something? I'm like, what am I going to go do? And she said, just go watch a movie. I'm like, fine.
Dude, Erica tells me that too. She's
so
like, you should go to the movies.
So I went to the movies. It was amazing. But I saw this advertisement. They were like unlimited movies or whatever. I'm like, I bet this is like, just given the fact that movies are like $11 a piece. I'm like, unlimited movies for a month. Let me guess. $40, $50.
Yeah.
It's $18 a month.
Yeah. So you just got to watch 2 movies a month.
Yeah. So last month I went to 4 movies.
Nice.
So I got $44 worth of movies for $18. That was 4 times where I went, disconnected from the world, and I left re-energized. And I've always liked movies. I had a big movie collection in college.
Yeah.
Most of them were inappropriate movies, so the Lord moved on my heart to get rid of them. So
Hallelujah.
I did. But I still like movies.
Yeah.
So I've gotten back into this, and it's really actually, it's re-energizing me in some ways.
Yeah, it's
sure,
good.
I like spiritual practices as much as the next person, but I mean, the Lord, every good and perfect thing comes from the Lord. Not everything is just sitting down reading the Bible. Like, yes, you got to do that, but you also got to find some outlets where you can just be human. And oddly enough, like the Lord is, he's able to use whatever medium he wants to refresh you.
Yeah.
And to speak to you. I can't tell you the stuff that I learned from movies about life, and that the Lord speaks to me and goes, hey, like I preached a beauty day 3 years ago about Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Because the Lord talked to me while I was watching Beauty and the Beast with my daughter.
Well, I mean, but also, like, how many times have you used like an opening statement for some of your sermons, and it's been something that you've watched television wise, or, you know, movie or something?
Somebody, I think it was somebody's mom said something to someone that goes to our church, is like, how much TV and movies does Scott watch? He's like, that's all he talks about. I'm like, the reason is I'm always on the lookout for content. Yeah. I'm always looking for what is intersecting your life in the story of God, so I can make it relevant to you, because I don't want to bore you to death on Sundays.
No, because, and then the next time you watch that show or that movie or whatever, you're like, oh, okay, like, nah, it kind of makes sense. It's almost kind of like a I don't even know, like a really good detailed map, you know? It's like if somebody gave you a map that's going to, like, and X marks the spot for treasure, but, like, you open it up, and it's like one of them pop-up books, and it has, like, the trees, and this is what you're supposed to walk past. Whenever you go back and watch that movie, you're like, and you come across that scene in a TV show or whatever, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I think it's in like 2 months, me and you are going to talk about preaching, and I will get more into the importance of this, because making that connection with people, like, people normally forget most of the stuff that I say, but they remember the illustrations that I used, which means that they got the point normally. Yeah. So, but we'll get into preaching and stuff. But this has been a long way around.
A typical week.
Yeah, this has been a long way around of saying my job is different than every other job here at this church. Not any more important, not any less important, not any more busy, not any less busy. Just really, really different. Because everyone's job here for the most part is different. And it, like, if you're not called to it, it's not for you. If you're called to
come and hang out with us for a week. You know, you may not be as available with your schedule, but come and hang out with one of the staff pastors for a day or something. And then we can walk you through, like, literally show you, like, what goes on. And it's easy. I mean, you may be available. I don't know. Like, if you want to schedule it in your time, any other time besides Tuesday and Wednesday morning.
I make time for people at this church. Like, I wasn't
trying to discredit, downplay that or whatever.
Like, I that's something that I want to be really intentional about, because I used to, like, I almost probably had double the amount of sermon prep time put into my calendar. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the Lord just rocked me last summer out at Summer Celebration, Rippling Waters Camp Meeting for the Church of God. Me and you were out there all week, and it was one of those deals where we were both like, I don't really know, man. This ain't really our scene normally. And I'm telling you, Hondel Smith was out there in those morning sessions, and he rocked my world about discipleship. And now that's why I'm doing this men's Bible study. That's why I go to the Harmony of Southridge to teach. Sometimes 2 senior citizens show up to Bible study. Yeah. And, like, it's so funny. I'm used to preaching to hundreds of people a weekend, and here I'm sitting with 2, like, senior citizens, and I love it, because the Lord's like, it doesn't matter how many people are sitting in the room, Scott. Yeah. You've been called to pour your life into other people and to point them to me. And so that's just what I just feel so like that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be pouring our lives into other people. Like, I'm an Ephesians 4 fanatic. God put those of us that work in churches, the pastors, prophets, apostles, teachers, all that, to equip the saints for ministry. Yeah. I am not meant to do all the ministry. I am meant to equip people to do ministry. So the vast majority of my week should be about me equipping other people to be more like Jesus. Yeah. And so that's what I see as my job description as the lead pastor. I do that through preaching. I do that through little videos that y'all ask me to be part of. I do that through podcasts. I do that through preaching to senior citizens at the senior citizen home. I do that in our men's Bible study.
Book club.
book club, everything. Like I just had this radical shift last summer at Summer Celebration that I said, my whole life is only going to be about pouring into other people.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do in every possible way. Is I don't want to show up in someone's life and not make a deposit into their life that will ultimately make them follow Jesus better or make their life better or whatever it is. That's the type of person I want to be.
Yeah. So good. I've enjoyed it. I like this kind of conversation. This is like one of the things that, like we mentioned earlier, it's just a door into our lives and what it looks like as ministers. And we for sure hope that you were encouraged and entertained along the way. It is now time for the mystery
I'm going
meet.
to keep this short because I know that we're really long, aren't we?
I don't care. You can pause it and start it again. It's not that big of a deal.
I hope this is not one of my questions, and it looks like it is.
All right. I'll just...
Actually, I probably prefer my questions to the one that I had last time.
Which one did you have last time?
I don't even remember.
Soup salad?
I think it was
or soup cereal?
Me and you recorded one that hasn't.
Oh, there's two in here.
Hasn't posted yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With Jed.
Yeah.
I think it was one that maybe Anna did.
All right. Let's get into it. Mystery meat question. What's your go-to song to get pumped up? Ooh, I got a good one. I don't
know. I feel like I just got set up. I'll tell you why. I got a new jam. This is not a new song. This is a new pump-up jam for me. I have to find it. Hold on. Because I don't actually know the name of it.
Wait, can we play it? I don't know that we're legally allowed to.
No, we can't play it. I just got to find the name of it for you.
Okay.
And then you guys can all laugh at me. It's perfectly fine. My new jam, you can verify this with my kids who now know this song, and Megan, who rolls her eyes every time I put it on. It is Fight Song by Rachel Platten.
Oh, gosh.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't know what it is. Like, so y'all, I love that Mayhem nutrition place in Cross Lanes that you can get the energy teas and milk replacement.
Yeah.
I swear every time I walk in that place, this song's playing. And it must have, like, got into my subconscious because then I just, like, started playing it on Spotify.
Yeah.
And now when I get in the car, I'm like, I want to listen to that song.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is. That song gets me fired up. Like, I would listen to that before I preach, and I don't even think it's a Christian song. Like, that song gets me fired up.
Yeah. Dude.
I know. Just laugh at me.
Well,
it's like
mine's probably not even. It's probably not. It's a little bit better. Actually, it's probably a lot better.
Is it Katy Perry?
No. It's not Katy Perry.
Roar?
No, nothing like that. I can't do that like this teeny pop stuff. But
apparently I can.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Rock it, dude. It's what gets you hyped, bruh.
It does. It does. I'm so.
It gets your blood pumping like mine is on Bang Energy.
Yeah, it does. If you give me a Bang and Rachel Platten in the morning, you're not gonna be able to handle me, world.
So you're a movie buff. Do you remember Karate Kid, the original one?
Yeah.
From the 80s? So there's this fight sequence that happens towards the end of the movie where it's showing Daniel LaRusso, the main character, and he's fighting all these kids trying to get to the championship. And there's this 80s song, and it's called You're the Best Around, and it's sung by Joe Esposito. And that song gets me pumped up because I think of like all the times that the dude kicked people in the face, like in the middle of this song. So every time I listen to this song, I'm like, I don't want to kick people in the face. I want to kick the devil in the face, but it gets me pumped up, you know. And it's that one that goes, "You're the best around. No one's gonna ever keep you down." That one, like, no one's gonna keep me down. And I just want to start like spin kicking and stuff. I don't know what it is.
My kids have recently like become obsessed with Skillet.
Oh yeah,
because Olivia went to Winter Jam with me this past year, and she loved it.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, I cannot believe my kids love Skillet. I like Skillet.
Yeah, they're good.
So now every time we get in the car, that's all they want to listen to. Landon said he's going to use Skillet Monster as his walk-up song for baseball.
Oh,
so for our travel baseball team, we have the little portable speaker, and there's an app that you can buy that you can introduce the kids and play like a little snippet of a song as they come up. Because when you're on travel baseball, they don't really have announcers and things like that. So you do it for yourself. And so he said Monster from Skillet is going to be his walk-up song.
What if he gets up there and just whiffs it, just like 3 times?
He is. All right, we're changing songs. Last year it was Andy Mineo. He had like 3 different Andy Mineo songs he would go through.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. Last year it was Christian rap. This year it's like Christian metal, like Christian rock.
Do y'all ever do like a week whenever y'all prank the kids and then y'all like the parents pick out the songs for them?
We have talked about that.
Y'all should do it.
Some of the moms on our team have talked about that. And it was so funny. One of the little boys on our team has a younger brother. And so she was telling this story. She said the younger brother said that they should make the older brother's song Barbie Girl.
Oh, yeah.
So we just died laughing whenever we heard that story. But that is a funny idea that has come up to prank those kids. But, yeah, like it's funny. Landon has gone now from Christian rap to now even Olivia doesn't strike me as the let's listen to Skillet type at all. And she, is obsessed. Like when we go pick her up today, that's what's going to be on in the car.
Yeah.
It's funny, the dichotomy between the two. It's either Skillet right now or Encanto. That's it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I'm very happy when they choose Skillet.
Well, I don't know if I can ever force myself to listen to that song, but if you haven't, go back and listen to our pump up songs. And then you can understand what gets us excited, like whenever we need to take on
some Rachel Platten on the way home.
No,
I'm gonna check in with you tomorrow.
I'm actually gonna be listening to a podcast on the way home. But hey, really appreciate it today. Really appreciate you guys once again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. And you can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.